Welcome to today's Explainer. If you're a government digital policymaker, a systems architect, or really anyone leading e-governance, you're in exactly the right place. Today, we're fundamentally rethinking how we build our digital systems. We're going to explore why universal acceptance, you'll hear me call it UA, is absolutely not just some minor IT update or a simple bug fix. It's actually a critical digital public infrastructure requirement. It's about making sure literally every citizen can participate in modern society. So let's pop the hood and see exactly how we fix this. Look, I want to start with a pretty stark reality, just to show you the literal life or death stakes of digital exclusion. Just take a look at these two numbers, 30 and 12.7. During the rollout of India's COVID-19 vaccination program, their digital registration system, CoWIN, required users to book slots online. But the interfaces were built primarily in English and Hindi. The result of that? Well, by May 2021, urban Indians received 30 vaccine doses per 100 people. But out in rural areas, that number was just 12.7. This massive gap wasn't just, a logistics issue. It was produced by a digital system that simply didn't recognize the very people it was built to serve. And you really have to look at the human cost of this kind of technical oversight. Think about India's massive rural employment scheme. Workers who had done back-breaking physical labor were suddenly denied their legally earned wages. And why? Well, because the digital gateway just didn't recognize their local language or their authentication methods. Basically, when systems just assume that all users are English-speaking, digitally privileged, and have flawless connectivity, they fail entirely. It's a textbook case of substituting one form of systemic exclusion for a brand new digital one. So to solve this, we're going to walk through a really clear, actionable strategy today. First, the digital exclusion crisis. Second, universal acceptance explained. Third, protecting constitutional rights. Fourth, the policy framework. And finally, number 5, a 3-phase modernization plan. Let's dive right in. All right, Section 1, the digital exclusion crisis. Let's diagnose exactly why our current digital portals are failing non-English speaking citizens all over the globe. So the root of this digital exclusion crisis, it really lies in our foundational tech. See, for decades, the internet and all its legacy systems were built on ASCII-only assumptions. Now, ASCII basically just means the standard English alphabet, A to Z, and numbers 0 to 9. When your government agency builds public-facing web portals, databases, or even just email forms that only accept Latin characters, you are actively creating an exclusionary technical barrier. You're basically telling citizens who use local scripts, whether that's Arabic, Hangul, Devanagari, or Cyrillic, that their digital identity is completely invalid. And that's a huge problem. Moving right along to Section 2, Universal Acceptance Explained. Let's get down to the technical root cause here and see how this builds into the solution we call universal acceptance. The crucial point here is understanding exactly what universal acceptance actually is. UA is essentially the state where all valid domain names and email addresses, regardless of the language, the script, or even the character length, are treated totally equally. It really comes down to 5 basic actions. A citizen shouldn't just be able to type a local language email into a box. No, your backend systems actually have to accept, validate, store, process, and display it without crashing. Just contrast the old paradigm with the new one. On one side, we've got those ASCII-only assumptions, highly restrictive, artificially constrained internet that honestly only serves the digitally privileged. But on the other side, we have UA-ready infrastructure. This is the expansive, inclusive foundation for a truly multilingual internet. Look, if we want to bring the next billion users online, and more importantly, if we want them to meaningfully interact with government services, we absolutely must transition to this open, UA-ready paradigm where local scripts are supported right out of the box. Now, if you want to see the sheer scale of this crisis, just look at global email acceptance rates. It's wild. Short, English-based emails pass through almost 100% of the time. But introduce a Chinese domain or an Arabic email address and watch that success rate completely fall off a cliff. We're talking plummeting down to around 10 or 20%. This isn't just some minor glitch we can ignore. It's a systemic crisis across the entire web. If your government portals look anything like this graph, you are literally rejecting 80 to 90% of your citizens' local language digital identities. No way around it. Okay, Section 3, protecting constitutional rights. Let's elevate this from a technical bug to what it truly is, a fundamental human rights issue. As a policymaker, I want you to think of it this way. Rejecting an internationalized email address is the digital equivalent of a government office just slamming its physical door right in a citizen's face. When your e-government platforms can't process local language emails, you are locking citizens out of their own country's digital services. You're effectively telling them, hey, you can't access your food rations, your healthcare, or your legally earned wages unless you assimilate to a foreign language's technical constraints. It's totally unacceptable. Now, reports do show that adopting universal acceptance unlocks a massive $9.8 billion global economic opportunity just by bringing more consumers online. But your priority as a government leader is different. The real, absolute necessity of UA is acting as a critical digital public infrastructure requirement. It prevents what we call the digital substitution of exclusion, which is basically where we pat ourselves on the back for modernizing, but really we've just invented shiny new technical ways to leave people behind. Implementing UA ensures rights-based access to welfare and services for everyone in their native tongue, period. Which brings us to Section 4, the policy framework. Now that we understand the incredibly high stakes, let's outline the specific policy frameworks you can implement today to adopt internationalized domain names in your government. Your mandate here requires embedding UA directly into your national e-governance standards. But honestly, perhaps the most powerful lever you have right now is procurement. Simply put, if a vendor wants a public sector IT contract, their software must be proven UA ready. Lead by example by adopting local language domains for your own government sites, and definitely partner with groups like UNESCO or the ITU to upskill your civil service. All right, moving to our final section, Section 5, Three-Phase Modernization Plan. Let's break down exactly how you can audit and modernize your existing public-facing digital service portals, moving us right from theory into execution. First off, you can't achieve universal acceptance with just a quick cosmetic fix on your website. Take a look at the Unicode technology stack here. The apps your citizens use actually sit on platforms like Android, which rely on programming libraries, which in turn rely on underlying character encoding. It's like a giant puzzle. Your audit has to dig all the way down to the basement to ensure internationalization is supported horizontally across every single layer of that stack. To audit this successfully, you have to test every single layer of your infrastructure against those 5 fundamental actions we talked about earlier. Whether it's a web browser trying to render a URL, an end-user welfare app validating a login, or a backend mail server routing a confirmation message. Every system layer has to be able to accept, validate, store, process, and display internationalized data. Because think about it, if even one layer, say a backend mail server, fails to store a local language script correctly, the whole chain breaks. So here is a highly effective chronological roadmap for you, drawn directly from the India UA implementation plan. In the short term, let's say the next 3 to 9 months, form your monitoring committees and adopt at least 3 local domain names for public websites to really set the standard. Moving to the medium term, over 6 to 18 months, you're going to establish testbeds and begin actively updating those legacy portals. And finally, looking long-term, up to 36 months out, you ensure sustainability by monitoring compliance and working with universities. You want to integrate UA concepts into standard IT degree programs, so your next generation of developers is ready to go from day one. Of course, as the saying goes, you can't manage what you don't measure. You can gauge public awareness through your outreach campaigns and UA Day events. You can prove policy support by counting exactly how many e-governance systems newly hit UA readiness. Track your implementation by monitoring the registration numbers of those local language domains. And to guarantee that long-term capacity, look at how many university IT programs have actually started baking UA standards into their curriculums. I want to leave you with this final, truly provocative thought. As you look at your country's digital infrastructure today, ask yourself, are your digital services truly public, or do they only serve the digitally privileged? A multilingual internet isn't some nice-to-have luxury anymore. It's an absolute necessity. It's your responsibility to ensure your digital ecosystems recognize, respect, and serve every single citizen regardless of the language they speak or the script they write in. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope you take these strategies directly into your next policy meeting. Catch you next time.